we know that the hip hop is definitely becoming global and continues to do so. Do you think that that is necessarily a good thing for hip hop culture, or do you think that it's in the process of being globalized that it has become watered down?
Well, interestingly enough, I feel that hip hop outside the U.S. is really promoting a kind of consciousness that commercial hip hop in the United States here is not doing. A lot of youth might start out imitating 50 Cent or Lil' Kim, but they end up seeing that somehow that bling bling culture does not really relate to their needs and what is actually the realities of many poor people around the world, right? I mean, because it's something that they might seem attracted to in the beginning because it's coming out of the U.S., but at some point they go, hey, this is not relating to not only my reality, my parents' reality, my grandparents' reality, so they begin to adapt it for their own needs. There are rap groups in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, for example, who are really, quote, keeping it real for who they are, and they really put down a lot of the American commercialism and the idea of that the gangster is really where it's at. Right. That we need to be using the culture to talk back to the system and to try to change the system more than what hip hop is promoted here on the commercial level. Right. So in a lot of ways, I think globalization is actually helping to keep the conscious part of hip hop alive and well and reinvented in other places, that it is not being reinvented. There is a real vital underground here in the U.S. People like Immortal Technique and others are still using hip hop as a strong social critique. Definitely. Like he's dealing with the Iraq War and other things like that. But what you can hear on the top 40 in most commercial radio stations is not promoting that. So I think globalization in a lot of ways has been healthy and has shown what the original intent was with hip hop, both party and to critique. Right. That's what I think that's what is actually salutary or healthy about globalization. Right.
So make hip hop is actually a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I tell all my students who take my courses, it's called Hip Hop in Urban America, but of course I have a globalization unit in it, right. And I tell them they need to look at the IMF, the International Music Feed. They need to see what music is going on, what hip hop is going on around the world, and they need to visit websites and they need to get more in tune to what is going on in hip hop culture outside the U.S. like they are in terms of inside the U.S. Right. We're very myopic and very provincial here, and we need to change that.
Well, that perfectly segues into another concept from the book, which is the global hood, and that you think that there is a growing sense of a global hood that connects different communities around the world. Can you explain what you mean by the global hood?
Yeah, well, in the process of hip hop being exported, especially by the major 5 corporations in the music industry, the idea of the black ghetto has been troped, if you will, to become the symbol of hip hop. Right. And I think in some ways it's the first time in this idea of this history of the Africanness aesthetic coming out of the readaptation of African performance principles by African Americans. It's the first time that the black, what was considered the black lower class, has been elevated to the quintessential image of what is black. And that has been exported along with hip hop into the far reaches and corners of the world, so that everybody's trying to imitate, what's going on, in the Marcy projects of Brooklyn, or any of the other places where a lot of hip hop cultural production has come. And this is making this idea of youth culture through hip hop around the world into a kind of imitation of the Black hood, if you will, all around the world. Now, this aspect of it is up for grabs in terms of whether it's positive or negative. I think in some ways it really has allowed people who have always been on the margins to share the limelight for a minute. Yeah. But in other ways, it stereotypes African Americans and what is Black as only one thing.
Right. Are your observations on specific instances where you've seen hip-hop culture imported into a country, and then instead of completely aping the genre, they have taken certain elements of it and then added something that makes it very unique to their country?
That is the typical trajectory of how hip-hop goes. First stage is imitation.
Right.
It can't be anything else. I mean, it's new, and it's a way in which many young people begin to learn English, for example. Chuck D says, many of the people, young people around the world are learning English much quicker through hip-hop than through going to school, albeit it's a tad different than the King's English. And that's true, and that's a part of the globalization process. But very quickly, they have to, if they're going to really be truly hip-hop, they have to keep it real for themselves.
Right.
So imitation is not going to get it. It's not fresh. It's not really you. So the way it has gone in many countries, for example, the music industry, they originally did not want the rappers to use Japanese, because they didn't think the language would adapt to that style of music, and that they would much prefer them to just rap in English. Right. But the youth themselves began to say, well, no, this doesn't feel right, to keep doing it this way, right. We can make it work. And now there are hordes of Japanese rappers making CDs and really selling well in their own country. And as many people know, France is the second biggest rap industry outside of the United States. Les Sages de Poète are some of the best rappers in French that I've ever heard, and of course MC Solar is in France is the biggest promoter of rap music coming out of Senegal. So I think this whole idea of going from imitation to what I call adaptation, and using indigenous, not only the language, but their own body language and style with it, their own issues and content that relate to specifically what the youth in those particular discrete areas around the world are going through, becomes the next phase. And if it doesn't happen, then hip-hop won't last in that culture. If that adaptation stage doesn't take hold, and you get some creative artists who really begin to take it and make it their own. And then it wins the respect, it wins more of the respect of the originators, those who started it here. They take much more notice when people begin to adapt it, when they're just solely imitating them.
Yeah. This is the book. Can you get this on Amazon?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
Both new and used.
New and used. Amazon.com. As well, look out for a paperback edition, which should be coming very soon in the next few months. As well, if you want to get more information about Halifu, you can go to her personal website, which is Halifu Osumare. As well, look out for her. She was nice enough to do a posting for us on the hip-hop scene in Hawaii, which will be coming up later this week. So take a look at that when it comes out. All right, thank you very much.
And thank you, Gavin. Flight 808 is really doing a great job.